The Jedi Order, while admired and loved in certain circles, were not without heavy criticism or even hatred in others. Over the course of the Clone Wars, public opinion of the Jedi Order took a drastic decline, as many aspects of the war shed the Jedi in a negative light. Before the war ever began, however, the Jedi were largely criticized for many of their practices, specifically the practice of taking children at infancy to be trained. This was perhaps the most controversial of all the Jedi's beliefs. In certain circles, because of this, the Jedi were deemed as thieves and kidnappers and believed to be evil. During the Clone Wars itself, the Jedi became even more despised. This was largely attributed to the public at large containing misinformation about the Jedi. Despite the Order being comprised of thousands of members, it does not compare to the billions of life forms in the galaxy. Because of this, those that witnessed the Jedi's heroics firsthand grew to admire their bravery during war, but sadly, the majority never saw a Jedi Knight in action, or even at all, and became weary of them due to their secrecy. Many members of the galaxy outright feared the Jedi due to mainly a lack of understanding about their culture. During the Clone Wars, the Jedi were also not featured in the propaganda for the Republic, and thus, much of the Republic failed to make a connection with them. The Jedi mainly requested to be absent from it due to them conducting a war and not wanting to be portrayed as warmongers. Ultimately, however, this had the opposite effect. On the other side, the Separatists launched a huge smear campaign against the Jedi, explaining that they had caused this war to erupt and were wholly responsible for it. The Separatists also called the clone troopers slaves and painted the Jedi in a negative light for their use of them. The propaganda against the clone troopers was taken even further when the Separatists claimed that they were being mistreated by the Jedi. Again, because of the lack of any Jedi in the propaganda, they had no response to these claims, and many of the Outer Worlds believed it as fact because of it. The Outer Worlds also began believing all Jedi cherished were the Inner Core Worlds, and even attempted to destroy the Outer Worlds by causing the Clone Wars. In the twilight of the Republic, their very own Supreme Chancellor claimed the Jedi had attempted to assassinate him for power and in an attempt to take over and rule the galaxy. Palpatine explained to the Senate that he believed all the Jedi were like Dooku and secretly desired power, citing Dooku as one of the most dangerous men the galaxy had ever encountered. He elaborated that the Jedi had caused the war to divide the galaxy and promote chaos so that when it was at its weakest, they could take over with as little resistance as possible. Palpatine also pointed out that at the beginning of the war, many Jedi refused to fight and partake, as even they believed the Jedi were headed down a dark path. After the rise of the Empire, anti-Jedi propaganda was heavily pushed, as Palpatine painted them as traitors and bloodthirsty warriors. The Empire also placed massive bounties on the heads of any Jedi, enough to make someone rich for a very long time. During the Empire, Palpatine also pushed the idea that there was no such thing as the Force, and that the Jedi were evil witches and wizards and did not truly believe or practice what they claimed they did. After the breakout of the Galactic Civil War, Luke Skywalker went a long way to gain the trust of the people back, and the Jedi became admired once more for their bravery. However, there was still some hesitation with the Jedi Order, not really directed towards Luke, but the Jedi Order in general. Many feared that if a new order were to be established, it could cause the creation of another Darth Vader or Sith Lord, which it did eventually do, making these concerns legitimate. In Legends continuity, Jacen Solo became Darth Caedus, and in canon, Ben Solo became Kylo Ren. So that is why much of the galaxy hated the Jedi and what the Jedi did and did not do to remedy certain beliefs about them. If you haven't already, consider subscribing to ensure that you become a living holocron today. If you enjoyed the video and feel it deserves it, I would really appreciate it if you could leave a like, as it helps me out a great deal. If you'd like to speak or contact me directly, the best place to do so is on my Twitter at Stupendous Wave. If you have any future potential video ideas you would like to see explored, be sure to leave them in the comments down below, as I go through them very often. Thanks as always so much for watching, may the Force be with you, and have a great day.